When you picture deforestation, what comes to mind? Probably some bad guy with a chainsaw, right? But what if the real story is, well, a lot less about hating trees and a lot more about simple economics? Today we're going to dig into the real, often hidden causes of deforestation, and we've got some fascinating source material to walk us through it.
So let's just kick things off with a pretty direct question. Is your shopping list causing deforestation? I know, it sounds a little extreme, but stick with me because by the end of this, you're going to see a surprisingly clear line connecting the stuff we buy to what's happening in forests thousands of miles away.
Okay, so here's the one thing you really got to get right from the get-go. People don't cut down forests because they hate trees. It's almost always an economic choice. See, in the world we live in, the land under the trees is often worth way more for other stuff than the forest itself is. And that's the real heart of the problem.
Okay, so what are these other uses? What's actually driving all this? Well, the research pretty much boils it down to four main direct causes. Let's get into what they call the Big Four.
And boom, right out of the gate, we meet the undisputed heavyweight champion of deforestation, commercial agriculture. It's responsible for a staggering 80% of forest loss in the tropics. It's not even a contest. It just completely dwarfs everything else combined.
So, what exactly is in that massive 80% chunk? Well, the culprits are going to sound pretty familiar. In the Amazon, the #1 driver, by far, is clearing land for cattle ranching for beef. Then you've got palm oil, which is this sneaky ingredient in everything from your cookies to soap. And then there's soy. And here's the kicker with soy. Most of it isn't for us to eat. It's grown to feed livestock.
All right, so if agriculture is the giant, what's making up the other 20%? Well, next up, we've got logging. And we tend to think of it as just one thing, but it's actually more complicated. This slide lays it out perfectly with this analogy. You've got selective logging, the sniper, which goes after just a few valuable trees. And then you have clear cutting, the eraser, which, well, it does exactly what it sounds like, wipes the whole slate clean.
But don't let that sniper name fool you. It's way, way more destructive than it sounds. Just think about it. To get that one perfect mahogany tree out, you've got to build roads, bring in heavy machines, and drag it out. It's like trying to get one book off a huge bookshelf by just knocking the whole thing over. The damage is incredible. For every single tree they take, as many as 20 others can be wrecked in the process.
Okay, so we've talked about the value on the land, but what about what's under it? Let's talk about the very thing you might be holding in your hand right now. Your phone, your laptop, they are packed with minerals. Gold, copper, nickel. But did you ever stop and think, where does that stuff actually come from? Well, a lot of the time, the richest stashes are buried right under tropical rainforests.
So how do they get those minerals out? Well, often it's through something called open pit mining. And let me tell you, there is nothing subtle about it. It literally means scraping away the entire ecosystem, every single tree, all the plants, the topsoil, just to dig a giant hole in the ground to get to the minerals below.
So, okay, we've got these massive farms, huge logging sites, giant mines. But how do they all connect? What gives them a way into the heart of the forest in the first place? That brings us to the one driver that most people totally overlook, but it might just be the most dangerous of them all: infrastructure, and specifically, roads. The damage they cause has a name: the fishbone effect. And once you see it, you'll never look at a map the same way again.
So here's how this whole fishbone effect actually works. It's pretty wild. First, a government builds a big official highway right through the forest. That's the spine of the fish. Then almost immediately, little illegal roads start branching off of it, like the ribs. And that's when the real damage starts. Those little roads open up the floodgates to huge areas of the forest that were totally unreachable before. And what follows? Illegal logging, small farms, new settlements. The main road basically acts like a zipper, unzipping the entire forest for destruction.
All right, so those are the big four direct causes. The what? But to really get the full picture, we've got to peel back another layer and look at the why. We need to talk about the system that's making all this happen.
And a huge piece of that system is poverty. I mean, think about it. If you're a farmer and you have literally no other way to feed your family, clearing a small patch of forest isn't some big environmental crime. It's survival. This quote from our source material just says it all. We cannot blame the poor for trying to survive. We have to look at the system that keeps them poor.
And you know what makes that system even worse? Corruption. You can have the best laws in the world to protect these forests, but if the people in charge are just getting paid to look the other way, well, those laws are basically just paper. Corruption gives a green light for all that destruction to happen.
Okay, so we've looked at the direct drivers, the chainsaws and the bulldozers, and we've looked at the deeper system issues like poverty and corruption. But there's one last absolutely crucial piece of this puzzle we need to put in place, and that's where we come in.
So what's the hidden engine powering this entire thing? What creates the demand for all that beef and all that palm oil and all those minerals? It all comes down to one thing: global demand. In other words, it's us. Our collective hunger for all these products creates the economic pull that starts the whole chain reaction.
One of our sources puts it in a way that is just so powerful and direct, you can't forget it. When you trace everything back, from the cleared forest to the product, to the store shelf, to the person buying it, you realize who's really powering the whole machine. We are the fuel for the chainsaw.
And that really leaves us with something to think about, doesn't it? Look, this isn't about pointing fingers or making anyone feel guilty. It's just about understanding how this incredibly complex system works. The real question then becomes, now that you know this, what part of that system can you actually influence?